Hello and welcome to episode number one of Jrock's Pop Culture Revolution. As you can tell by the title of the show, we're going to be talking all about pop culture. Pop culture is something I really have a lot of fun talking about. Um, some of you may know me from a show I previously did called Gar Boris's Time Machine. Well, sadly, that show came to an abrupt end. I That was kind of out of my control, but like I said, it was really the end of an era. I got to thank my good friend Gar Boris. Yes, his name was in the title because Gar was such a huge part of the show. That was my way of saying thanks to him for being part of the show. Um, I believe we did like 80 episodes, and it was a lot of fun to do. And again, one of those things just kind of out of our control. But I'd like to thank Gar for doing the show with me for about 5 years or so, 5 6 years, and we would still be doing it, but it's just the end of an era. Okay, so um, Gar may I may have Gar come on the show from time to time as a guest host. That remains to be seen. He's very busy these days with Appetite for Destruction, so we do understand that. So we're launching this new show on J Rock's Babylon called J Rock's Pop Culture Revolution. And we're going to be talking about all kinds of things. Now, I thought for episode one, it would be fun to talk about um, some famous catchphrases. Now, how many of us, when we were growing up, remember those famous catchphrases from our favorite, TV shows? A couple come to mind. Well, I was doing some history, some research and prepping for today's episode, and I found out some interesting stuff. Now, this is what I learned. Probably the first catchphrase uh, to be featured in a classic TV show would date all the way back to, I believe, 1947. Of course, I'm talking about the Howdy Doody show. Um, Howdy Doody, the famous puppet. Well, how many you that know who Howdy Doody is remember this classic phrase? Say, kids, what time is it? It's Howdy Doody time. And again, Howdy Doody is a little before my time, but like many people, I'm aware of who Howdy Doody is now. Another famous catchphrase that comes to mind is Dynamite. And of course, I am talking about Jimmy J.J. Walker from Good Times. That is a comedian who played the role of J.J. Evans, James Evans Jr., on the classic 1970s TV show Good Times. And the catchphrase, as popular as it was, created a lot of controversy with some of the other actors on the show. I mean, Jimmy J.J. Walker, he became the breakout star on Good Times. Initially, Good Times was centered around Esther Roll's character of Florida Evans, the mother and the matriarch of the family. Now, of course, many of you know Good Times was a spinoff from another great classic 1970s hit TV show. And of course, that would be Maude. And Maude, Florida played Maude's housekeeper. And so once Good Times was launched, this was supposed to be obviously TV show based around Florida Evans and her daily life with her family. And it's interesting because in reference to Good Times, there was one episode of Maude to feature John Amos, but in the episode of Maude that featured John Amos as Florida Evans' husband, he went by the name Henry, not James. Now, when they launched the Good Times show, the name of her husband was changed, even though it was played by the same actor. Interestingly enough, it was still played by John Amos. All of a sudden, Florida now married to James Evans Sr. I guess Norman Lear and some of the writers felt like, well, if the eldest son's going to be named James Jr., then probably the father should be named James Sr., okay? But dynamite was a thing back in the 1970s. The catchphrase I'm talking about, of course, made famous by Jimmy Walker. In fact, dynamite became such a popular catchphrase that I remember in the 1970s, there was even a magazine called Dynamite. that launched because of the success of Jimmy Walker's Dynamite catchphrase. Now, as I said, on the set of Good Times, it created some controversy with John Amos and Esther Roll. They were very serious about um, the family being portrayed, a certain way to the Black culture, Black community, and they thought Dynamite kind of because of that, people were taking the show serious. It became, more about Dynamite than about the stories. Of course, Jimmy Walker, was a big breakout star, so it was great. It was great for him, as you can imagine. But it became one of those things that the catchphrase, it became such a thing that the producers and the writers, okay, every episode there's got to be at least one or two Dynamites. And it just became that huge. And that's kind of what these catchphrases are. Yes, when it becomes a catchphrase. Of course, Good Times is one of the classic catchphrases. Dynamite. You know what I'm talking about. I'm sure you do. You're around in the 1970s. Now, another great classic TV show from the 1970s, of course, one of my all-time favorites, Happy Days, featuring the gang, the Fonz and Richie and Ralph and Potsy, the gang, from Jefferson High. Well, that show featured so many catchphrases, probably the most famous one being, and this is going to be funny, you're going to laugh when I say this, because it doesn't really sound like much of a catchphrase. Hey, that's of course my reference to the Fonz. The Fonz, you heard that, understood. It's understood. A could mean whatever the hell the Fonz wanted it to mean, and it was understood. Okay, that was probably the ultimate. Another one was sit on it. You heard everybody throughout the Happy Days, TV show saying it. I remember several times Mrs. C telling Mr. C, "Oh, Howard, sit on it." And basically, what I learned is sit on it was a polite way of saying, hey, F you. But again, people tune in every week to Happy Days. Everybody started saying either A or sit on it. Again, I don't think a lot of people, including myself back in the day, again, it's one of those things just kind of understood. I mean, I thought back in the day it was kind of like telling somebody, hey, sit down, shut up, but no, it's actually more direct. It's basically somebody told me, hey, a polite way of saying F you. But again, comedy, it became part of the pop culture background of the 1970s. Another one from Happy Days, you may laugh when I bring this up, but Richie Cunningham's famous line, I found my thrill on Blueberry Hill. And every week we'd be tuning in to see how, if they were going to say these lines and how many times. Again, it just became part of the fabric of the 1970s, Happy Days and these famous catchphrases. Of course, another famous catchphrase, let's see if you know what I'm talking about. What are you talking about, Willis? Of course, I'm talking about Gary Coleman from Different Strokes playing Arnold Jackson, okay? That was his kind of catchphrase whenever he'd be talking to his older brother, Willis. Oh, Willis, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? It seems so funny to kind of sit back here and think that these things became such a huge part of our life. You know, another one would be, did I do that? Of course, reference to Steve Urkel from Family Matters back in the 1990s. And the amazing thing about Steve Urkel and that catchphrase was he was not originally supposed to be on except for one or two episodes as a guest star as a neighbor. But the first time he appeared on the show, there was such a reaction to the character and just the way he talked and said things, the ultimate kind of 90s nerd. I do that, and those big glasses and that voice, you just could not help but laugh. even when you get into animation, okay, um, probably one of the most famous ones, I think, dating back to the 1950s, 1960s, would be Fred Flintstone. Yabba dabba doo. No mistake about it. That's Fred Flintstone. You hear somebody walking down the street. Yabba dabba doo. You know what that is. Um, and then another one would be Popeye the Sailor Man. Another one of these famous catchphrases. Let's see. Oh, I am. Let me see. Oh yeah, okay. Here it says Popeye the Sailor Man. I am what I am, and that is all that I am. And now Popeye, this is fun because Popeye dates all the way back to, well, I believe in 1930s. You go back to the 1930s, that was just the very early stages of animation, movie making, and if you go back and you watch those classic Popeye episodes, many of them were in black and white. I mean, again, it dates back to the 1930s, and the animation was very amateur stuff. But again, Popeye the Sailor was a big part of my life. I remember I used to go spend the night at my grandmother. I call her Nana. Her name was Grace, and I used to love watching Popeye with her. I'd spend the night every weekend practically. We'd get up early Sunday morning and we'd watch Popeye on Channel 5 in Los Angeles, and it was they had the actor Tom Hannon. He hosted the Popeye show, and he was also an amateur animator. And he'd get up and he chose how to draw Popeye and different cartoon characters. Big part of my childhood. So it was very much fun. And very much like going back to something like Dynamite. Okay, that's just like one line. Say Dynamite. Everybody started saying it, and it's funny because as much as that may help Jimmy JJ Walker be the breakout star of Good Times, it created a lot of tension on the show. The other actors did not like it. Oh my God, the show is everybody's laughing and too much comedy. But I think it was a nice balance. And then it got to the point where even Esther Roll, after season 3, she walked away from a show and then she returned for the final season. Of course, John Amos, who played James Evans Sr., I mean, he was so unhappy with the JJ Dynamite stuff and that. That he started getting really angry with the writers and the producers, and he started, they weren't happy with him either. They didn't like his attitude. So ultimately, Dynamite may have even played a role in John Amos's character, James Evans Sr., being killed off on Good Times. And I remember watching that as a young kid myself, and I remember the episode where they're getting ready to move to Mississippi. James Evans Sr., he's away. He's going to meet the family in Mississippi. And the shock ending at the show where it's revealed that, oh my God, this party that they've been having in celebration of the big move, finally getting out of the ghetto. Well, guess what, folks? We find out that James Evans Sr. was killed in a car crash. I don't even remember if I really understood what that meant, but I remember seeing that episode for the very first time back, when it first aired, and I thought, oh my God, JJ and Michael and Velma, their dad died. Oh, I feel so bad for them. Of course, that's how much these TV shows meant to us, and then you come to find out that all because of Dynamite and John Amos's reaction to that, and the producers and writers not wanting to put up with his attitude. But these catchphrases, were a big part of our lives. And I will tell you guys, Happy Days, a lot of these shows, been on the air. Well, not been on the air, but they're celebrating like their 50th anniversary. It's 50 years since some of these shows first premiered. Two of those shows we've been talking about, Happy Days and Good Times. They premiered like 50 years ago, and we're still talking and watching the old reruns and talking about these shows because they meant something to us. I mean, who would not have loved to have had a character like Arthur Fonzarelli in their life? Hey, a guy that when the bullies and people are picking on you, hey, you need some help? Can I help you out here? The Fonz was just the ultimate cool. There was not any question about it. And so I think the thing with catchphrases is they started to have. I mean, you even look at a show like Mork and Mindy. Okay, some of these catchphrases, they're not really obvious. Like if I say, "I am Mork from Mork, Nanu Nanu." Okay, again, it's not an obvious catchphrase, but if I say, "I am Mork from Mork, Nanu Nanu," you know what I'm talking about. It got to a point where many of these classic TV shows, it became a thing. I think at first something like Dynamite happened kind of by accident, and these other TV shows said, okay, you know what, we need a catchphrase now. I mean, even look at like Laverne and Shirley, which of course was created by Gary Marshall, the same people that brought us Happy Days and stuff like that. Well, even some of the characters on Laverne and Shirley, like not so much a catchphrase, but Penny Marshall. I mean, you could never have an episode of Laverne and Shirley without her having that famous L. Okay, again, it's not quite a catchphrase, but it's something that we came to. Okay, well, Laverne's always going to have an L on any of the blouses she wears. That just became, a trademark, whatever you want to call it. Another catchphrase in reference to like Laverne and Shirley could be like Lenny and Squiggy, stupid. The big ragu. Okay, again, not so much a catchphrase, but if I was to say the big ragu, you know what I'm referencing. So again, what happened when these catchphrases such as Dynamite started to kind of have that effect, that it factor, a lot of the other TV shows started, okay, we need a catchphrase. But like the stuff I've been talking about, it just kind of happened organically. And as you can see, I mean, 50 years later, I'm still talking about how much I love this stuff. So again, this has been episode 1 of Jrock's Pop Culture Revolution. Okay, and so when you tune in to these episodes that are going to start premiering pretty regularly, we're going to be talking about everything from your favorite classic TV shows to maybe we start talking in detail about some of our favorite albums of all time, talking about some of our favorite bands, our favorite classic movies, and of course, another thing I love in talking about pop culture is holidays. The holidays is big time because I can tell you from when I was growing up, one of the favorite things I remember doing is on the holiday, tuning in those classic holiday specials, like the original, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, all those great classic holiday movies such as, What a Wonderful Life, Miracle on 34th Street, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Frosty the Snowman. So again, we are just getting started here. I am so excited about launching the first episode of Jrock's Pop Culture Revolution. Tune in next time, and we're going to have some fun. Tune in and just wait and see what we talk about next time. We're just getting started. Take care. Bye for now.